Hello there, Kira here at Unfurl, and today's video is about the excruciating coming face to face with our shame. And if you are in this awakening journey, you may have come across a few of your bits and bobs kind of floating up to the surface, emotions from your childhood, sadness, anger, all these different things that have kind of floated up into your awareness. And there's a part of you now, this spaciousness that you are, that's able to allow that, that's able to hold that. But there is one emotion which is just so difficult to hold on to allow, to just notice it and just stay with it, is toxic shame. So toxic shame is this belief, a deep belief, unconscious, maybe not even unconscious actually, but certainly a deep belief that we are bad, flawed, unlovable. And the reason that toxic shame is so difficult to meet is because the sensation of it in our bodies is so painful. It's so uncomfortable. Of all the emotions that you're going to meet along this journey, I really believe that shame is the most difficult one to work with, because our whole psyche since childhood has been about avoiding what we believe to be a truth about ourselves. That we are unlovable, that we are bad. So I have had inside information about shame because for a very long time I really believed that I was a bad person. And I always had this, I noticed at various times throughout my life myself thinking, if people knew what I was really like, they wouldn't like me. But if you had have even asked me, well, what is it that you're afraid they're going to see? What is it that's so unlovable about you? I wouldn't have even been able to say. I couldn't have pinpointed it. I couldn't have said, oh, it's because of this or because of this. It wasn't even that conscious in my mind. It was just this sort of, like I was keeping this awful secret from everybody. And when I would be triggered, for example, if I get things wrong, or when I would lose my shit with my kids, I would, just, have a bit of an outburst in an unguarded moment. And I'm not saying outbursts are the way to go, but they happen. And rather than being able to say, look, really sorry, and just move on, well, I did that. I'm really sorry. That's me. I'm just overwhelmed at the moment. I'm really tired. So I would do what's called the repair with my children. But that wasn't the end of it for me. I would go down into this spiral of shame, and I could stay down there for 2 weeks. This horrendous, heavy feeling would come over my body. This feeling like my body was filled with cement. All the light was just snuffed right out. And instead was this impossible, ugly sense of I'm bad. So much so that at different times I would have honestly believed that my children were better off without me, and that maybe it would be better if I just wasn't here. So luckily for me, I never acted on that. Another part of me kind of kicked in quite quickly and went, well, they need you, so come on, get up and get going. But what I am saying is that I know how painful it is to feel this, because it feels so real. It feels so true. I honestly believed I am bad. And the thoughts that go with it, because of course, there's no conscious awareness around this. This is like a train of thought that goes off when shame is triggered, this chain of thinking that would be, I'm so awful. I'm so terrible. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is as bad as this. Nobody else holds this ugliness inside of them the way that I do. Everybody else is okay, but I'm so much worse than everybody else. So that was this sort of dark train of thought, and I would be on that train headed into the abyss and not even know that I was being carried along in thoughts that were completely untrue. So on this awakening journey, we're holding space for whatever arises. We are the spacious awareness in which our emotions come up, in which sensations in our body come up, and our feelings are coming up, and we can name them. We can say sadness, irritable, different things. But the reason the shame is so tricky to work with is because it is so excruciating. We jump away from it. We don't even know that it's really happening, and we're sort of jumping away from this sense of ourselves as bad with 100 million different defense mechanisms that we use. And we want to also hide it from other people. We don't want other people to know how bad we are. And so it makes having a loving, intimate relationship that we long for so difficult. Because obviously, if we're around people long enough, which we will be in an intimate relationship, they're going to see all parts of us. You can't really hide when you're around somebody all the time. You're going to get tired, you're going to get overwhelmed, or life events are going to happen and stuff gets pushed to the surface. So inevitably, we're going to lash out in anger or say something mean or be really flipping selfish one day because that's how we feel like being. And that's all very human. But if we are hiding this sense of shame, we've judged ourselves for all those feelings. We're judging ourselves. Somewhere along the line as a child, we have not been receiving the love and the connection that we needed from our primary caregivers. So infants, and this is all unconscious, and young children, they are absorbing their sense of who they are in the world. So unconsciously, they kind of come to the conclusion that, well, my caregiver is perfect and good, so it must be me. I must be bad. I must be flawed. I must be unlovable. Infants need to see their parents as good because they depend on them for survival. So the only way that they can keep operating within this relationship is to own the bad and project the good out onto their parents. And now they've internalized a story about themselves, all without words, all without realization, all unconscious, that we will be running from for the rest of our lives, trying to hide it. I am bad. You can't get away from that. It's not like I am sad. I feel my sadness, then my sadness evaporates. It's I am bad. How can you get away from that? And it's not even true. So I honestly don't think that I could have met my shame unless I had been working with a therapist at the time, because my therapist was able to hold me in that feeling. And I still remember that session, and I'll never forget that session. She stayed with me while I went into the darkest pit of myself, met this badness within me, and just collapsed into it. Stopped resisting it, stopped running from it, stopped denying it. I allowed myself to descend into the badness of myself. And while I was rested in it, my therapist held the space. She didn't turn away from me. She wasn't appalled or disgusted. She spoke kindly and lovingly to me. Just stay with it, breathe into it, be in it. And it's so hard to do this by ourselves because it's to meet our worst nightmare and to look it in the face. And there is something about collapsing into it that sets us free. It's a really, really difficult piece of work. Shame is really, really difficult. Not everybody carries a story about themselves. Not everybody has adapted in that way to make their early childhood work for them. But some of us have had to do that in order to survive in a family environment that may have been a bit chaotic or may have been a bit dysfunctional for various reasons. Nobody's doing it on purpose, but if that's how your early life began, that you weren't seen, you weren't heard, your needs weren't met, you may have unconsciously absorbed the message and the story about yourself that I am bad, I am unworthy of love. And it may be getting in the way of you having a relationship with yourself and therefore having a relationship with other people, a really honest, authentic, allowing people to see you for who you are. Once you have done this piece of work around shame, now you can let people see you. Now you can let people know you, because you know you. And you know there's aspects of you that aren't perfect, but you're aware that this is just a part of your humanness, and it's not bad. It's not unlovable. It's absolutely human. And I know for a fact you can come out the other side of it, because I've done it, and my life is transforming as a result of this piece of work. So if you are meeting your shame or running from your shame, I am sending you so much love, because I know how painful this lie is to hold about ourselves. And I really, really, really hope that you can find your way back to reclaim that little part of you that was never bad, never unlovable, and love that part of you. All right. Bye for now.